Hey, we're live here. Welcome to edition 140 of the BBK podcast. This is your host, Brian Golick, and I should have done this beforehand, but it's time to open up a beer. I know you don't have a beer here, but cheers.
Vodka.
So, yeah, we have Mr. Seth Byrne here. It's been... I wish I would have looked back at the history, but I think your first appearances on this were in 2015, if I had to guess, if not 2016. I know
it feels like it's been that long.
Because I know the first interactions I can remember with you were involving the election with when you were advocating for the odds on Rubio.
Yeah, that would have been a while ago.
Yeah, so that would have been that was probably the Super Bowl with the Broncos and the Panthers. You might have been on there before that, but I feel like that was around the time.
That sounds like January 16th.
Yeah.
So that could be.
So I want to say welcome. It's finally nice to meet you in person.
And in honor of Rubio, I've got some water with me.
Yeah, so it's great. So like I said, this is a long time coming. You haven't been back in Chicago in quite a while.
It's been a long time since before the end of the world.
So you said this is your third time in the city?
So I went here twice for Magic tournaments. They used to have a couple pro tours here. And I once did a road trip around the country in '99, and we were here briefly. But I've never been to Wrigley. I've never been to Soldier Field. So
okay,
yeah. And this town's fun. It's got a different vibe than New York. Very different, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. So, do you So I saw somebody retweet today, where it was people from New York say I live in New York. People from LA say I live in LA, and then it's people from Chicago, and they talk about you got to go to Chicago. You got to ride the alley. But I don't know. I feel like people in Chicago are happy, confident to live in Chicago. They'll talk about Malort. They'll talk about their lasagna pizza.
How much Malort have you drank?
One shot.
Exactly.
My life.
That's
it.
That's all more than anyone.
That's all you need. That's all you need. Have you taken a shot of it?
I took a whiff of it.
So you never actually. You've only inhaled it. You didn't exhale.
I knew that it was not a good thing to consume.
Okay.
My nose didn't like it.
So you were smart. You were a smart man.
Yeah.
So you knew better that you're one shot better than me in your life then.
Yeah, it's like golf. The fewer shots, the better.
Yeah. So what are you going to be doing in Chicago?
So I came here partly to record the podcast with you in person. There's a restaurant, Tortello, which, by the way, I had heard of the Bear. I did not know Tortello was on the Bear. So but I wanted to go to Tortello for reasons that have nothing to do with the Bear. And the Art Institute, possibly in this, I didn't realize this till now, but Paul Skeens will be in town. Yeah. So a lot of fun stuff.
On a team that's surprisingly contending for the playoffs now.
3 games out last I heard.
I guess when you expand it to 7 teams, it's kind of hard not to be in the playoff race unless you're the White Sox.
I think we're still at 6, but yes, any playoffs that the White Sox make are playoffs that just we're letting everyone in.
They're the reason why I wish we had a similar system to the English soccer leagues where you get demoted. I do think that motivates teams to.
We agree wholeheartedly. I'd love to see relegation come to the United States, but I don't think it ever will.
Yeah. So we got our first comment here from Lou that says, "Hi, friends." So I just wanted to let you know that
Hi, Lou.
The live feed is working. So yeah.
I love the little heart that's floating out. Lou, we feel the same way.
Yeah. It's mutual. It's a mutual feeling. So. We left off in April of this year, right before the draft. I think it was a few days before the draft where we recorded.
That's right.
Yeah. And you had your annual stances on certain things, and I think this is the 3rd year in a row where you're big thought ball kind of came in.
So let's see.
If I'm remembering right, Mac Jones was 3 years ago.
That sounds right.
What was 2 years? I'm trying to remember what 2 years.
So there was Will Levis versus C.J. Stroud.
That
felt good.
That was 2023.
That felt good. Yeah.
2022 was Mac Jones. 2023 was 2023 was Stroud versus.
And this year was not as big as either of those, but like I didn't see the Mark Carthy trade; just didn't make any sense for me.
Yeah,
it didn't happen. So,
yeah.
One of the things is, and this Bears ended up getting the man anyway, was the McCarthy trade would have meant that there would have been one more quarterback taken before the Bears picked, which meant that that'd be much more likely to get the wide receiver they wanted. Now they ended up getting him anyway.
Yeah.
But so I enjoyed this year's draft. It was fun. Although I'll tell you, like I was a Penix fan. He was my number 4 quarterback. He ended up being number 4 quarterback off the board. But to Atlanta, really?
Yeah. Yeah. The odds on that had to be pretty high.
I mean, so teams leak on the day of the draft once they know what big teams ahead of them are doing.
Yeah.
And apparently there were rumors like ESPN and the NFL Network were talking about how there's going to be a surprise from Atlanta. I was like, really? And then it really happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like somehow them drafting Bijan was less surprising, even though like we don't need to get into the running back part of that, but somehow that was less surprising and less shocking than drafting a quarterback. Or
they just signed Cousins for what was it, $160 million, 80 guaranteed, something like that, and that's a commitment. That's at least a 2-year commitment. So I don't know, man. Falcons just draft differently.
Yeah, we got some more comments just coming in saying hi and good afternoon and all that.
Oh, sure.
So yeah. But yeah, the Penix thing threw everybody off. I think. I don't think it's picks like that make it like almost like impossible to pick all 32 picks correctly.
Yeah, unless the teams are leaking to you, I don't see how it can ever be done.
Yeah.
I will say that it's so hard for me not to think of what else. For a team that's trying to win now, like the Falcons are trying to win now, at least just to win the division, whatever else. They could have grabbed Rome Odunze. They could have had an additional top receiver. They could have taken the top defensive player off the board, like Dallas Turner or Latu or whoever they wanted it. And nope, just a backup quarterback.
And does that go back into like how, like, are they, is age being valued less than it used to? Like,
I don't think so. Although, if you live in a league where it's just about your first contract, you can draft older players and they'll be 28, 29 when they finish their rookie contracts. That's not your problem anymore. So I guess in theory, but no, like succeeding at a young age still matters. Like if you can beat other elite college players when you're 20, that's much more impressive than beating them when you're 23.
Yeah.
You have much more upside.
Sure.
So no, age still matters.
Okay. All right, and then you had, I think you didn't touch base on a few of these, like the Joe Alt pick.
Oh, yeah, no, Joe Alt, like,
and
so the Chargers are in a situation where they have a franchise quarterback, Justin Herbert, but they don't really have a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And so I figured that was a chance for them to grab Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze if that's what they want. But instead, and Harbaugh was saying this before the draft, we're leading offensive line. We want to bulk up there. And so it wasn't a shock when they picked Alt. But it's not clear that that's going to be what's going to best up their offense, although Alt looks good. Like, I have nothing but respect for him. I think he'll be a great player. I'm just not sure he's what the Chargers needed to be more competitive right now.
Yeah. And I was telling my buddy this a couple of days ago, a Bears fan, and like saying it's not the sexy pick to pick the offensive lineman, but like, eventually you're going to need all pros if you want to keep your assets as protected as possible. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not drafting all pro left tackles typically after round 1.
No, that's certainly true.
Probably,
and we're going to talk about the Washington Commanders, what they're doing to protect their franchise quarterback, number 2 overall, with a 3rd round selection. So, I mean, yeah, I can understand elite offensive linemen, elite offensive tackles have value. I'm not sure I would take an Alt ahead of Neighbors if I was there, though.
Okay.
Like, so
sure,
right. I
sure.
can see it.
Okay. And then, Neighbors. So, like, were you happy with that pick for the Giants?
Ecstatic. The only downside is, like, this really should be a tank year for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they do not have a franchise quarterback on the roster. So Shadur Sanders, Carson Beck, and a franchise quarterback to be named later is what they should be focusing on right now. But the general manager's on the hot seat, the coach is on the hot seat. So they're going to try and win right now. And Malik Neighbors is a good choice for trying to win right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. He was in my fantasy football draft, he was the second rookie taken. Obviously, Harrison first, but
sure.
Neighbors, people are excited about that. And then, I think a lot of Bears fans were happy about Odunze falling to them.
I think they were ecstatic, and they should be. I mean, you get a franchise quarterback. You already had a number one receiver in DJ Moore. Now Rome Odunze can come in as a number two, and you just have a legit wide receiver corps. That's great.
Yeah.
So Chicago is considered a potential playoff team this year, which is a wonderful place to be after many years in the cold.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I will say that when I was talking to you before about the pessimism about Caleb Williams during our last podcast, because there was a lot of like people that were just, and I think a part of it, I think on social media, as you know, like you get filtered the negative stuff. I think probably, and people might be more apt to post negative things than positive. I don't know how the algorithms work with that, but I will say that like one of the friends who was kind of down on Caleb, I don't know if it has to do with the fact that they went 4-0 the preseason, which we won't get into that. I decided to leave that off the podcast, but we don't need, we know preseason doesn't mean anything, but the fact that you could sell a little bit of hope is not a zero thing. It's, at least you could sell like you could sell a positive result. It doesn't necessarily have to have been like,
The thing Brian Bullock is trying to leave out of the podcast is that the 2008 Detroit Lions went 4-0 in the preseason and then proceeded to go 0-16. Mm-hmm. Preseason football is a football-like product, but it's not NFL football.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's better than going 0-4. I mean, I guess you could sell 4-0 better than you could sell 0-4.
Certainly.
But I digress. So, all right. So, no defense till the 15th pick was.
That was a stunner, particularly because like we were expecting defense to go off the board number 8 to Atlanta, and you could have seen it certainly in a couple other places before then. But it's a sign of the times that offense is harder to find. It's more predictive season over season, year over year. And so teams are looking for those top skill players, those top offensive linemen before they're looking for edge rushers. Although it's also possible that's just how the NFL felt about this year's draft.
Sure.
We'll see if it's a trend.
Sure. And you did, and then, but I the last part here, I did touch base on the age part, and you actually addressed this in a comment here about how some teams reached a bit or didn't care.
But the 49ers in particular didn't care.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to get a little sad because we're about to talk about Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, that's...
he was an older wide receiver taken out of Florida in the first round by the 49ers, and he ended up getting shot in his chest during an attempted robbery just downtown San Francisco.
Yeah.
And obviously no timetable for his return or anything, which is glad he's still alive. But the 49ers themselves did not seem to be looking for younger guys. They're looking for guys who could play right now.
Yeah. So age to them, they look at like an older age is like maybe more experience or maybe more ready to play now versus somebody who's like 20 or 21.
Yeah.
So okay. You mentioned Washington here. So I guess that covers. Was there any other final thoughts about the draft before we go into the offseason?
There were some teams that I felt are getting a little addicted to reaching. They believe their own draft boards too much and they don't pay enough attention. I feel like the consensus big board, if you're consistently taking 50 players early, you're making it harder on yourself. Yeah. It's just sometimes you might be right, but the consensus big board, these are people trying to do their best, both draft analysis and player analysis. And if you're just disagreeing with both of them regularly, you better have a good reason. And it's hard to constantly have good reasons.
Sure. Okay. All right, let's go into the offseason then. So I think the big thing this offseason was the wide receiver market.
Yeah.
And
The holdouts.
Yeah, the holdouts, and we had CeeDee Lamb was the big one.
He got paid.
We got
Brendan Ayuk got paid. Justin Jefferson got paid.
So basically, like everyone that needed to get paid got paid at this point. I don't remember. I don't know who's up next year. I guess we'll find that out soon enough because they'll probably.
It would be like the 2021 draft, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. That would be like, is that Smith? Devonta Smith.
He got paid already. They've already extended him. The Eagles have been very good about locking up their good young stars.
So we had a lot of holdouts, and what do you attribute to? Is it more like them realizing their value, or what is it?
Well, let's actually talk about a wide receiver who didn't get paid.
Okay.
T. Higgins out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
Cincinnati, Mike Brown is not one of the wealthier owners. They've generally been penny pinchers.
Cheap.
Yes, he's cheap. And so there's a pretty good shot that T. Higgins is going to hit free agency next year. And if he has another good season, I mean, he's the number 2 guy to Jamar Chase. Burrow, if he's healthy, they could have a monster year. So we'll see what T. Higgins can get next year.
Yeah.
But wide receivers matter. We've seen just adding good wide receivers that help Jalen Hurts become Jalen Hurts. And other quarterbacks like Tua Tagovailoa doesn't get paid the money he's getting paid if they didn't have Hill and Waddle. It's if you don't have a great quarterback, you better have elite wide receivers. Otherwise, your passing game is going to have a tough time.
Sure. Yeah, because like it was, just thinking back to like a comment that was in that post that you shared with me in June. I don't remember who was the analyst who was the one talking about the wide receivers being like the second biggest.
Yeah, and it's definitely true. Wide receivers have certainly bumped their way up. Now, that's not to say, like the elite defensive linemen who can get to the quarterback, they're still going to get paid.
Yeah.
But other players are going to see their, like safeties have been getting squeezed the same way running backs got squeezed previously. So yeah, the NFL decides what it values and what it doesn't value.
Yeah, like do you personally see a position that's undervalued that should be getting more? I mean, I know you're not in NFL. NFL.
I'm not a capologist.
You're not a GM or anything like that. But like, is there a certain position that you think will be like the next big one, like based on trends or what you observe?
Next big one. Interesting question. Guards have started to see themselves get paid a bit more.
Okay.
Get more attention in the draft. So I think NFL GMs are looking at that. That's a position where you can make an impact, get more bang for your buck than you have historically. Or it could be just that there have been some good guards coming lately. I don't know. But that's one thing I've noticed a little bit. The position I feel like has gotten undervalued a bit. Hamilton on the Ravens, Kyle Hamilton, formerly of Notre Dame. He was my number 1 player just overall, just relative to other players' position in that year's draft. And it did not surprise me he went to Baltimore. They're a team that tries to grab great players that fall to them. They grabbed a center as well in that draft. Like we've seen safeties. I feel like they can make more of an impact than other players for the same dollar for dollar value. So I feel like they probably shouldn't be as cheap as they are, but I've never actually constructed a roster and paid everyone. So that's just a speculation on my part.
Sure. Okay. And then, you wanted to bring up, let's see. So we got a question here. It looks like, would a slow decision quarterback be made to look better stat-wise than he is because of good receiver on a long pass?
All right. So let's talk about long passes in general. To attempt a long pass, your offensive lineman has to have protected you long enough for the route to develop.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to have a deep passing game if you don't trust your offensive line. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to say like slow decisions just means you don't think quickly on the field. And I'd prefer to think about maybe as a quarterback with a slow windup, if a slower delivery. I don't necessarily know that elite wide receiver is going to be what's going to out of there. I think that's a guy you got to protect so you can get rid of the ball before the rush gets there. It's an interesting thought, but like the thing about a deep passing game is yes, you need the wide receivers for it, you need the quarterback for it, but you need the offensive line for that too. And if you don't trust your offensive line,
and that's where it starts.
Yeah,
because you need those extra tenths of a second or half a second to be able to execute.
Do you watch any college football? Is that your thing at all?
Not particularly. I watched it sparingly. I watched a little bit this weekend, but I don't. I'm not like a Saturday morning like gotta be watching game day.
Oregon last year with Bo Nix, they got rid of the ball faster than any team I could ever think of, at least in college football.
Yeah.
And just like trying to sack Bo Nix was a fool's errand, and it made their offensive line statistics just obscene.
Yeah,
and you had to take into account like, hey, the offense here is making them look good.
Yeah, the only thing I could speak of about Bo Nix is that I've like there's somebody I follow on Twitter that is projecting a lot of running back receptions for Denver. Based on his quick passing.
He is certainly like we've already had captain check down. He may be general check down, like admiral check down. I don't know, but like, his willingness and ability to get rid of the ball quickly in the short passing game is impressive. Actually, he is both willing and able to do so. And honestly, like. Sean Payton seems happy with that. Bo Nix was his man, so he has a plan for him.
Yeah,
see if it works out.
All right, on the same line as the wide receiver. So to go on the opposite spectrum, wanted to bring up something that was in that thread that you had shared with me, that somebody had shared about how Kansas City is able to do what they do without an elite wide receiver. Now, is it just as simple as saying Patrick and Andy?
It really is. You can't replicate a plan like that without having an elite coach, an elite wide receiver,
Tom and Bill.
Exactly. They did the same thing. Yeah. They put a lot of their resources into building a strong defense and trust that Brady would be able to generate enough offense with what they had around him. They didn't necessarily have elite wide receivers, but they had wide receivers that were good for their scheme and their game plans. But they made it work with Randy Moss, and the Chiefs made it work with Tyreek Hill. So it's not like they don't want to lead wide receivers. Yeah. They can certainly take
but they know that they have the pieces on the top that can offset like the lack of the lack of elite.
Yeah, in the rest of it. Now the Chiefs last year, in the regular season, like Mahomes was not one of the top performing quarterbacks, and part of that was again the wide receiver core wasn't great, and part of it was that the defenses were taking away a lot of the deep passing and whatever else, so they had to work short and slowly down the field. But they still won the Super Bowl.
yeah, they still won the 4 games that mattered. So.
Yeah, and they did with like 2 road games. They went into Buffalo, they went into Baltimore, and Baltimore was a damn good team last year.
Yeah,
it didn't matter.
Yeah, so they shrugged that off their shoulder, because they only played home games in Mahomes' career in the playoffs, so they were able to say, well, fuck you guys, we were able to do it on the road too. So
apparently he didn't have to always play home.
They don't need home field. It helps. It helps to have home field, especially with the Chiefs.
Sure,
great stadium for noise.
Get there ad one day.
But yeah, so that's why they're the exception. So it's as simple as just saying coach and quarterback.
Both of them certainly matter, but particularly having the GOAT quarterback is very helpful.
Sure. Oh, one more thing about the holdouts you mentioned about Trent Williams.
Oh, yeah. Mike Nolan's, by the way.
You want to touch base on that with the Niners?
Yeah, let's do that now.
We can hold off.
Let's do that now. So with Trent Williams, the 49ers have the best offense in the NFL. And part of that is just having a whole array of elite skill talent. What you have now? What we're
It's
looking
a
at.
Spotted Cow, Wisconsin brand here.
I used to live in Wisconsin. I used to live in
Yeah.
Madison.
Okay.
Enjoy the cow.
Madison's great. I love
Yeah.
Madison.
Oh, yeah, Madison's awesome. The 49ers offense with Trent Williams has been best in the NFL. And without him, Purdy and the offense has had a rough time. When they had their little losing streak, Williams was out last year. And so he feels he's got a ton of leverage. And he does have some leverage. But he's also, I think, heading into the 4th year of a 6-year contract with a 7th void year. And he's already received all his guaranteed money. And so if he were to say walk away, which he's not going to do, he'd have to pay back, I want to say $20 million or $30 million in terms of bonus that he would have to give back. So that's not happening. And he's due to receive $20 or $30 million this year. So it's a $50 million swing between just not playing at all and showing up for work. And while I understand he wants more guaranteed money, he has none left. And he has been very important for them. I think at the end of the day, like, he has to show up. So 49ers look like they're playing hardball. We'll see if they offer him like something. Yeah. It's part of the problem is they might not want to offer him anything. They want to necessarily encourage this in the future.
Sure.
But as someone who has some 49ers futures, like after week 1, look, skip the Jets game. I'm cool with that. But after that, it'd be nice to have you
we're gonna have to end the podcast. We might have to make some kind of little friendly bet on the Jets.
Oh, absolutely.
Jets Niners game.
I'm down.
So, okay, all right. So the next topic here, the big player news in terms of retirement was Aaron Donald. He was just a menace.
And you would ask me to rank him among the greatest defensive players of my lifetime.
Yes. So it was a 2-parter. It was ranking him in terms of like what you've watched, the ball that you've watched in your life, in terms of on the defensive side, and also the other part was the domino effect on the Rams defense. Because obviously, I feel like when you have somebody of his talent, it can mask other problems, or maybe not necessarily problems, but it can make average people look good, shitty people look average, that sort of thing.
There is a cascade effect. Let's start with that first.
Okay.
He received a significant amount of blocking attention, which means that even if he wasn't being double teamed, there was a guy who had to keep an eye on him. So there was that. He was creating opportunities in that respect. Sometimes there would simply have to be more blockers, and they just have more blockers along the line, so they had one fewer guy running out into the route. And he got to the quarterback, despite all the guys in on his way. He was hugely impactful beyond just his stats.
Yeah.
And so, they will miss him. He was huge. Now, viewing him historically, Lawrence Taylor, and I know a lot of you guys weren't watching football when Taylor was playing, he forced both the Washington Redskins at the time and the San Francisco 49ers. That was Bill Walsh, the 49ers. Why am I freaking? Joe Gibbs, Redskins coach. They both had to rewrite their playbooks because of Lawrence Taylor. Their protection schemes that had worked for years, that were based on decades of football knowledge, did not work in a Lawrence Taylor world. It just didn't. And so he changed the NFL. He was incredibly dominant. Imagine Micah Parsons in some ways, but better. I mean, and Micah's incredible.
And that's not to insult Parsons at all.
He's tremendous. But Taylor was just built different from anyone before or since. So he's number one. Reggie White had the first real free agency tour that I can remember.
Yeah,
he was leading the Eagles, something like that.
1993.
And so many teams wanted him. He was a defensive end that just made a huge difference. He was incredible, and he ended up going to Green Bay, and they won a Super Bowl together. Some of those Eagles defenses that he was on, by the way, were arguably even better than the 85 Bears, and the 85 Bears were tremendous.
Yeah.
But those Eagles defenses with Buddy Ryan were all – it's funny. Like, he was with the 85 Bears, and he was with his –
Yeah, the thing is, and and like this is just how history views things, as you know. But you have like for the general consensus of you being the best ever at anything, you have to have a title behind it. Like that's just how things go. Like unfortunately, like
in a team sport, that's not necessarily fair.
but that's how it's. I mean,
Yeah,
that's how it's viewed
it is.
by the general populace.
Yeah.
Like because the Patriots had the best team, the best season ever, but it didn't end with the Super Bowl, so it's neglected.
Junior Seau was in a bar in San Diego at some point after the Super Bowl, and someone recognized him and sent over 18 shots and a beer.
That's cold.
Yeah.
That's cold blooded, man.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. To Seau's credit, apparently he drank them. So
yeah, good for him.
Yeah. But like, yes, Reggie White was the second greatest defensive player that I would say in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Bruce Smith played at the same time as Reggie White, and he was awesome. He was really, really, really good, but I would not necessarily on Reggie White's same level. I'm going to put Donald just behind Reggie White and ahead of everyone else.
Okay.
Now, you'll note I haven't mentioned any cornerbacks. Deion Sanders was, I think, the best I've ever seen, and there were multiple great safeties in my lifetime. Ronnie Lott being the first one that stuck with me most. Palomalo was certainly great. But they can't make the same impact as a defensive lineman or an edge linebacker. So, no, I go LT1, Reggie White 2, and then Aaron Donald 3. And Aaron Donald is the only one who was an interior defensive lineman among them, which just shows you how special he was. And also, by the way, Jones of the Chiefs, he, after Donald retired, he's the number one guy now in terms of interior defensive line. He matters a ton, too.
Okay.
These guys matter.
Okay. All right, so let's go into the next part here. A popular topic in these discussions is notable coaching changes. So either be head coaches.
I will have to check my notes on this one.
Head coaches or coordinators. So I'll kind of tease this. Your beginning note was about Mayo.
So he's taking over New England. He's taking over after Bill Belichick. So those are some shoots. That's a big change.
And let's I don't know, we don't really discuss this, but what are your thoughts that there was no interest in Belichick? Like, were you expecting that?
I was hoping for it, certainly. I won't lie.
Yeah.
Was I expecting it? Not initially, because initially there were rumors that both Dallas and Atlanta were interested in him. But as it turns out, neither went his way. Dallas, I don't think, even fired their guy. They kept McCarthy.
Yeah.
So, but McCarthy was on the hot seat after another playoff loss, and Atlanta had a job open. Now, part of it is Bill Belichick's not a young man. He wants certainly a lot of control and a lot of money. And there's a reason he's leaving New England. His stuff just hasn't been working without Brady. As a matter of fact, it's never worked without Brady. And so, as a head coach,
sure,
I don't want to disrespect his defensive coordinator days with the Giants. Like, he was one of the reasons that Bill Parcells has a couple rings. Like,
sure.
Belichick was very, very good as a defensive coordinator, and also very successful as a head coach. But father time, man. Like, he may have been washed.
Yeah.
Maybe the NFL feels like he's washed. Now, he certainly looks like he's been happy on television. Like, he and Saban together have such great chemistry.
Yeah.
I love watching them because they have such mutual respect and so much ball knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah. So, you know what? If Bill Belichick ends up being happy as a TV coordinator, gets paid, doesn't have to work nearly as hard, good for him.
Yeah.
But most importantly, Shula's keeping that record, at least for now.
For sure. Okay. So back to
back to Mayo.
Mayo. Yeah.
Like, he's going to have a certain amount of pressure in the fact that he got his franchise quarterback, and he's taking over from Bill Belichick, so eyes on them there. But also, he's going to have time. Yeah,
I mean, I should have looked at this ahead of time, but I feel like they've got the lowest over/under for wins, or if not, one of the lowest.
I think that's right.
Like 4.5 or 5 or something.
But for the thing is, it's not about wins and losses this year. It's just not about showing that you're a competent head coach, that you can develop. like his main job this year is to develop the franchise quarterback. So
Yeah, you want to see progress throughout the year
with May, yeah. May. Jesus. So I have no real expectation one way or the other. Maybe he'll work out, maybe he won't. Just taking over after Bill Belichick, you're not going to be able to replace or repeat that. You're just not. So, not unless you get your Tom Brady. And maybe they did get the Tom Brady, in which case, God damn it.
Time will tell.
I'm a Jets fan.
Yeah, time will tell. And then, Harbaugh.
Harbaugh, certainly. So he has higher expectations, but I don't feel like that roster is as good as people think it is.
Yeah,
I'm betting a lot of
unders. You're selling on them.
I'm selling them, fading them, shorting them, whatever you want to say. One thing I want to note, by the way, is Bill Belichick isn't the only guy who didn't get a head coaching job this year. Bobby Sloak, the offensive coordinator of the Houston Texans, he apparently had 4 interviews, and I thought he kind of sucked, to be honest. I thought he was bad. So I was kind of hoping he'd get a head job, so he could embarrass himself.
I feel like we might have talked about him in the
draft pod,
or maybe even the playoff one, because they were playing the Browns.
Well, look, he kept his job. He's going to have another chance, and it's certainly possible that he was a huge part of C.J. Stroud's development and success. So maybe I'm being completely unfair to him, but on a play calling level, I thought he was not great. So. I wasn't shocked he didn't get a job.
So you have Vic Fangio now.
So Vic Fangio has joined the Eagles as defensive coordinator. Their secondary just fell apart last season. Truly on levels I've never seen before, to be honest. And so he knows what he's doing. They have a bunch of new players in, and the players who are coming back are going to learn the system. Like, he should fix things for them. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah.
So we have
heading for CFB to raise NIL money. Thoughts?
Really? Is he doing that?
Yeah, I missed that.
I missed that too.
I see Belichick. I hope I spelled it right. Heading to CFB to raise NIL money. Yeah, I wasn't not aware of that. I should say, like, anyone who is, we have 10 people on, so great. Anyone else, I appreciate your Camber ribbons. I do appreciate your comments. I should have said, like, anyone that wants to just kind of chime in. I'm kind of keeping a passive eye on the chat here, but
the over came in 10.
So there's more there's more people on here, so that's good. All right, so let's see. You had, and then there was Cliff Kingsbury as a coordinator.
He among other NFL circles, Cliff Kingsbury did not receive a lot of respect. Coming in from college, he had his new scheme. He perhaps talked a lot of shit, and he did not back it up. And so he's been viewed as a clown. And I'm curious to see how he does in Washington. And part of the problem he's going to face in Washington, apart from just getting a new quarterback, is they traded away one of the wide receivers, Dotson. They don't have a ton of skill talent.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But, a lot of eyes are going to be on Kingsbury, and not all of them are going to be rooting for him to succeed.
Yeah, and I guess this brings up a random question that I just kind of thought of now, but there's certain personality types that I feel like you need to have to be a head coach versus just a coordinator. Because I feel like as a coach, you're managing like the whole building versus like just one subset of the one half, or however you want to call it, of the team.
There are different styles and philosophies. There are some guys that are going to be managers. They're going to have their offensive coaches run the offense. Mm-hmm. The head coach will oversee it, and then the defense coaches will run the defense, and they pay some attention to everything. But they are going to let their people do their jobs.
Yeah.
There's some guys who themselves want to run one side of the ball, like the offense in San Francisco. That Shanahan's all over it.
Yeah.
Or some guys want to run the defensive side of the ball, perhaps. And there's some guys who want to micromanage anything, and those guys, it just takes years off their life, I presume.
Yeah, I would think so.
So, I mean, there's different ways of getting it done.
And I mean, I guess, and yeah, it doesn't seem like that there's like a necessarily one way or the other that like, I mean, it seems like one of those, being a coach, like we've seen different styles work for different teams, different coaches, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you just have to have the right, if you're going to be a micromanager, you better sure as hell like have that knowledge of everything. But if you're like, if you don't know as much, you have to be smart and give way to.
You also better have the people skills to not piss off the people you're micromanaging.
Sure.
So
sure.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it.
So, and then you had mentioned curiosity how the new regime handles things in Seattle.
So they why am I forgetting his name? Formerly of USC.
Carroll,
thank you, Pete Carroll. He didn't want to be promoted out of the head coaching job. No, they wanted a new plan. And Geno Smith was drafted by the Jets. I have some affinity to him. Like they wrote me off, and I didn't write back. Like that was cool. That was a good line. I don't think Seattle has what it takes. And so the new regime is going to have to decide if they want to stick with mediocrity or eventually turn the page. So they have some challenges ahead of them, some personnel challenges. Just got to go in.
Oh yeah, it's just there should be tens of thousands of people in here.
I am flattered, but apparently I am niche, boutique even.
That's okay. Sometimes it's just better to be underground a little bit.
Sure.
I don't mind.
Go see the band in a small club, have a great time.
Yeah, that might be why I'm a fan of like the one band that I still see.
They're literally named local.
Locally. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
They knew what they were about.
Yeah. So all right. The next part here was related to your latest project. So what are your newest projects or items that you're diving into?
Do I have any? Do I have time for any projects anymore?
Or because last year I think when we discussed this, I think you might have had a similar answer where it was like a time issue with
the time issue.
Dive into certain things.
One of the things the NFL has changed is positions matter less than they used to, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And so I'm just adapting to a new world. And we've seen some of that with offenses at the high school level. And it'll be just a nightmare for me personally if that comes to the NFL. And it'll infect college first. Always things flow up in that respect. Things flow from college to the NFL. They flow from high school to college. And so if that position is football style stuff comes to college, that'll be my early distant warning. Projects I'd like to work on. I don't know that I want to put anything more on my plate. I barely have time for all the stuff I want to do.
I mean,
right now,
just talking to you at the bar and all of your interests and all the things that you're seeing and doing on a weekly, daily basis, like I don't know how you have time to even do this sometimes.
Do I? I made time for it.
One of my new life philosophies that I was sharing with Seth here. I don't remember what the context was. I was saying something about I didn't have time to do something, but I corrected myself and I said I didn't make time to do something because I try not to use, because I feel like that was a thing that I used as an excuse in the past where I wouldn't take a walk because I didn't have time. But I realized, wait, I can make time to do it if I really want to. And I know that's easier for some people to say than others. It's easier for me to say I don't have kids, or I have less interference in that regard. But you have to make time to do things sometimes. And in my case, that's the kind of mindset that I try to have now with overall life, just because it helps me do more. Because then I was like, I don't have to do that thing for 30 minutes that I was doing before. I could do that 30. I could spend that 30 minutes like actually doing the thing that I said I was putting off. Like, so I don't know.
I'll tell you that if I had infinite time, like if I wanted to make time for a new project and I could make time for a new project, I'd want to start looking at how the new defensive schemes, what they're trying to take away, how defensive philosophies have changed. Because we see so much base dime, some even base nickel. So much base nickel and some even base dime. I want to see what their space they're surrendering and if they're fundamentally sound or unsound. That's actually what I want to answer.
Okay.
Because you didn't see base dime back in the day because they would just run the ball against you and you'd be dead. And teams don't just run the ball against base dime now. Perhaps they should do it more often. And are offenses not taking full advantage of the less efficient plays that are now being put on their platter? Are we now going to see running backs be more effective running into 6-man boxes instead of 7 or 8-man boxes? That's the question I'd want to answer if I had more time.
Okay. And perhaps that adds a tiny bit more value to them. I don't know.
We'll see. Pendulums eventually swing back.
Yeah.
So
I always go back to one of the few NFL books that I read was the Bill Walsh book, and how he would look at plays from like 20 or 30 years ago, and like ones that didn't exist like in film now, just to like be able to exploit like teams that didn't have that preparation for like plays that were ran in the 60s. Nobody's running this in the 80s, and just take advantage of things that are in front of you that that or people that aren't, maybe they're not familiar with that scheme or the motion or whatever it might be.
Yeah, Walsh was pretty smart in that respect because he was looking for plays that the defenses simply don't have anyone there taking away, trying to find spots on the field he was able to attack that modern defenses weren't defending. I was a Dolphins fan at the time when the Dolphins were facing the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and I was a Shula fan. I remained a Shula fan. And so I don't want to say hated Walsh. I always had tremendous respect for him. But he was on the other side. But I have to tell you, his book was great. Nothing but respect for him. And yeah, if you want to learn about football, you're going to learn more from Bill Walsh than you ever will from me.
All right, so we had a question about the thoughts on the new
coaching
staff.
How good the staff is?
Yeah.
Adele seems fine. It's just more a matter of they're going to have some tough questions ahead of them with Gino and the rest. Because Gino is being paid with mid-level quarterback.
Yeah, Gino.
That's
Gino is Gino. Like, you're not – I feel like you know where you're getting with him. He's not the franchise savior.
And that's the problem. Are you willing to settle for like 8 or 9 wins in a season, or do you want more? I would want more.
Yeah, do you want to be mid, or do you want to do you want to rise up and that's up, So yeah,
the best you can be.
Yeah. Okay, so we touched base on your projects, and then the next one was rule changes. So there's some rule changes.
The rule change that everyone's paying attention to is the kickoff.
Sure, and that's the most visible one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple ways it could go. The one way it could go is you're going to see teams have their plans. They're going to kick knuckleballs if they can, slow stuff with the corner if they can, whatever else. And we're going to see drives start like 26, 27, 28-yard line average, maybe 29.
Yeah.
Or we're going to see teams just say, we don't want to deal with this at all, and just kick it deep, and teams will start at the 30. One thing I want to note is the clock is ticking on the kickoffs now. That didn't used to be the case. And so that might lead to a few fewer snaps per game. But the rules change I actually care more about is how they're going to officiate what's called cheat motion.
Okay.
And that was the play. You'd see the player running horizontally and at the snap, dart forward. And whether or not that'll be a flag this year remains to be seen. I've seen write-ups that say write-ups that throw cold water on that. And there are teams like the Rams, the 49ers, the Dolphins that made it a part of their offense. And if that's going to be a flag this year, then those teams are going to have to adjust.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how well they can.
Yeah, and that's kind of like sort of like CFL-ish, right? Like, isn't it?
Yes.
CFL allows you to move up.
Have one player running forward, I believe, running at the start of the snap.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I actually like about the CFL. I go to CFL games. I go to Winnipeg. I enjoy watching CFL in person. I like watching on TV too. It's kind of cool how they make offense so dynamic and fluid, but in exchange, you only get 3 downs instead of 4. So make them count.
Yep. All right. And was there any other? Let's see. Was there any other rule changes? Those are the main 2.
Those are the main ones I've been paying attention to. There are other rule changes this season, but those are the 2 that have gotten the most attention, both from the league and from me.
Okay. All right. So let's see. So one thing I wanted to mention, I had Travis Kelce in mind with this question because, I know that, now that
playoffs versus regular
Kansas
season.
City's pretty established as a team now, where I'm not. The playoffs are never guaranteed for anybody, obviously. So it's not like the NBA in that regards, where you can kind of just take off 15 games, 20 games. You don't have that luxury, but as far as
management.
But do you have different weights for players or teams when it comes to regular season versus playoffs?
I really don't.
Okay.
And that part of that is, it's not like other sports like basketball you just brought up. You can affect playing time whether you play at all. Like UConn in the regular season, they clearly were not playing the same way, effort-wise, whatever else was, that they did in the NCAA tournament. And the NCAA tournament was just murder ball, all 6 games, both the last 2 years. Yeah. And I went to those games, by the way. They were unbeatable.
They covered all 6 games with ease, basically.
Yes, they were better than their Pythag ratings. And I do a lot of math in college basketball. It's UConn regular season was not the same team that you were facing.
That was definitely the most dominant shock performance I've seen in quite some time.
And for the most part, I don't have that from the NFL, but there's one thing I want to bring up. In the NFL, you might see games officiated differently than they are on the regular season from the playoffs. In the playoffs, you A, have all-star crews, and B, they're going to let more go. They don't want things to be flag fests.
Sure.
And defenses respond to that by playing more physical, more aggressive. So you may end up with a similar amount of flags, but much more contact. And so that might affect, there's certain teams and players that might be able to handle it better than others. We've seen Patrick Mahomes maintain his regular season success in the playoffs, and Lamar Jackson has not. And whether or not, I think that's just small sample variance, to be honest. But there might be something I'm missing in regards to how the games are officiated and how each can react and handle that.
Okay, so I think that covers those questions. So nothing new yet. So like I said before, anyone else that's new, that you can ask questions away. I'm just kind of keeping a casual eye on things. So I'll do what I can to adjust your questions as you come up with them. And thank you for the one so far. So this is the 2024 preview or / lead into the preview. So I've asked this question before, maybe in different words, but the first topic here was teams with the widest range of outcomes for the upcoming season.
My first thought, I guess, would be the Jets, simply because you have an old quarterback in his 40s. He's coming back from an injury, who was not that great this last year in Green Bay. I mean, is he going to be washed? Is he going to be able to grab his old MVP style form? Or is he just going to get hurt again and leave us to the Tyrod Taylor?
Yeah.
And so
is that who the backup is?
It is.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. So
he's good of a backup. He's the definition
he's 35,
of a backup.
I think.
He's a definition of a backup. He's on the higher end of backups for the most part, in my opinion. But yeah.
Let's just say I feel like the Jets have a wide range of outcomes, and my expectations are pretty low. There's no team I'm fading harder than the Jets.
Okay. Well, that's got to make you sad in some regards, right?
It hurts. It does. I won't lie. Yeah. But I hated when we signed him.
Yeah. Yeah, you were. Yeah, because you were even you were embracing the variance
of
Wilson over him.
Yeah.
Like even with what you had seen with Wilson, you were still embracing the
That's right, because
Wilson variance over.
If Wilson is truly awful, then we would have ended up with one of the quarterbacks in this year's draft.
So yeah.
Who knows?
So I get that. So that makes sense. So okay, so going into the next thought, and I guess this kind of leads in. You've already kind of teased this, but stances betting wise that you've taken for this year. So
yeah, there's one thing I need to say.
Okay.
Rodgers went down, so we did get thrown to the wolves in terms of embracing the variance, and we still didn't sniff one of the top quarterbacks. So no, our defense was too good for that.
It's like they didn't suck enough. They didn't suck to the level that you wanted them to.
It sucks being in the middle with no hope of success. Or
being in the middle of almost any sport, like American sport, is bad because you just don't. You're never going to get those.
In a league with relegation, just all right, we're staying alive. That would be something, but that's not in play in American sports. So. All right, so betting stances.
All right.
Start with the NFC. I have Eagles futures. I have 49ers futures. Please, Trent Williams, after week 1, show up. And I went ham on Green Bay.
Okay. So you're buying them.
I am buying them hard. First of all, I believe Love. Like, just watching his film again last season, the light came on, that he knows what he's doing. He's got a young wide receiver corps. They're deep. They're reasonably athletic. And if what's the guy? Dubs? Was he Watson? Christian Watson? I'm so terrible with names, but one of their guys, his hamstring. One of his hamstrings was like 10% larger than the other or something. It was something unusual, or maybe more than that. And now that they've diagnosed it, they're able to work on it and do exercise and things to fix it. So hopefully he'll stay healthy in the future. And their secondary, like they got destroyed when playing dime last year. They just did not have enough cornerbacks and safeties who can cover. They fixed that this year. Part of it is some guys were hurt last year and they're healthy now, so they got 2 guys back there. And then they drafted a safety and they signed another pretty good safety. And Detroit is obviously still, at least I believe, they're going to still be a very good team. But so Green Bay, that's going to be a heck of a division rivalry this year. And
it's going to be that might be like I know in the last year or two, I feel like the AFC North has gotten like my attention in terms of being the most interesting, but this year I think it's moved to the NFC North.
I mean, they both are. So the
outside Minnesota.
Yes, and we'll get to that in a second. The AFC North has Baltimore, who's legit. Cincinnati, if Burrow is healthy, they're legit. Pittsburgh, at least they never have had a losing record.
I mean, and they're kind of the definition of mid. They're in that mid, right? They're in constant mid.
For this year's NFL preview, I really had to spend a lot of time biting the bullet. Like, initially I was thinking, can I really project them as having a losing record? This is not what Tomlin does. But then I looked, do I believe in Russell Wilson? No, I do not. Do I believe in Justin Fields? Well, there's some variance still left there. But if I'm being honest with myself, no, I'm a skeptic. Yeah. And so, there's a reason no one they got him for a 6th round pick. And, if Wilson had it, he'd still be in Denver. So, no, I think and Cleveland, that defense is tremendous. And if Watson were the guy he were in Houston, they'd be Super Bowl threats every year. But he's not anymore. So,
yeah.
But back to the NFC and the bets I made.
Right.
So I backed those 3 teams. I believe I'm fading Minnesota, fading Carolina again, because the film obviously when you go 2-15, the film's not going to look good.
Yeah.
When you had the number 1 quarterback in the draft and he puts together some of the worst rookie numbers that have ever been recorded, particularly in the DVOA era, the Football Outsiders era. Well, Football Outsiders dead to say DVOA era.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's not going to look good. But then when I actually watched, I felt like he was worse than the numbers projected. Mm. He had difficulty throwing the middle field because he just couldn't see it, couldn't get the ball there, which means he has to play on hard mode, working on angles, and defenses know that, so they're going to take that away from him. I don't think they got the right guy, and I think they're just screwed.
Yeah.
So I'm fading them.
And we're in the town that's benefiting from it right now.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Chicago, they won that trade every which way but loose.
Yeah.
So yeah, great for them.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about the Rams, mostly because I don't know if you ever had a hamstring injury, but they've been known to linger.
They nag.
They nag.
Yeah, they're nagging. Yeah.
And so Stafford had one, and I know that he ran some like running plays late in the preseason. Hey, I'm healthy, guys. I'm like, really? All right, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'd be a little worried about that for the Rams. So those are my NFC wagers. The AFC, I'm fading the Jets hard. As much as I'm backing Green Bay, I'm fading the Jets.
Okay.
Like I have futures on both Miami and Buffalo to win the division, just because I'm so confident the Jets will not.
Okay.
Let's see. Do I have anything? I have some Ravens futures. I have. Do I have anything else actually?
You mentioned fading Indy, the Chargers.
I'm fading Indy, fading
the Chargers and Vikings.
Yeah, I'm fading the Chargers just because I feel like I know that their offensive line should be really, really good. They've got a pair of great tackles, assuming Alt is great. They're going to be leading on the running game. I just don't think it'll be enough to get it done. I don't like the wide receiver corps. For Indianapolis, it's a bunch of little factors. It's hard to really go into. But part of it is Richardson still needs some time to develop. I hope he's healthy. I want to see what he's capable of.
Yeah, he's still he's younger than some of the guys that just got drafted. So.
Oh yeah. And an elite athlete. Hopefully, he's still an elite athlete coming back from the injury. But I want to see him. I'm just not sure he's ready to lead them to the promised land right now.
Sure, but they should be more entertaining with him as long as I mean.
I still remember the game against Houston where they could have won the division if they complete that fourth down play. Then they're going to have a chance to drive for that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Pass a little bit off.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I've waited on so far for the season.
Okay. All right. So we have these were the listener questions from I'm not
from earlier. Yeah.
From Twitter. I'm not going to call it the other thing.
Yeah.
Twitter. I always call it Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Yeah. It's like it's the Sears Tower over here. It's the same thing.
Chicago knows what they're about.
Yeah. So we're stuck in our ways and we're fine with it. So that's what we're going to do. So all right. So listener questions. The first one I had up here was about mostly oblivious was asking about if there's any correlations between different markets like MVP, Coach of the Year, win totals to make playoffs.
I don't really focus on props, so I can't speak to that or comment on that.
Okay.
Did I write anything else interesting there?
No, that's pretty much it. You back teams that do well.
Yeah, I back teams that
in terms of win totals and futures. Yeah. So the only thing that I ever noticed was and I mean this is just an observation. And this is just Monday morning quarterbacking, but like the you're basically looking for a Coach of the Year. You're looking for whoever's going to exceed the win total the most, basically, in so many ways. So if somebody's projected for 7.5 wins and they win 11 or 12, that guy's going to be probably in the top 2 or 3 candidates, if not the top candidate to win.
I feel like in that situation, someone else would have had to have a monster year to eclipse.
So
that feels like a Coach. So
it's if you can figure out if you have a good. If something your numbers are producing,
you know what? Let's take a stab in the dark. Let's each put in a guess for who's going to coach the year. Let me think about this for a second.
I always feel like it's a mid-tier projected team that makes the playoffs that is the type of candidate that makes it rather than because Belichick never won it, right?
Has Reed won it?
I don't think Belichick ever won it. Shanahan probably could have won it once or twice, and he didn't. I don't think those type of guys ever win it. So it's and there's other podcasts that I know that go over this. I know the Whale and Andy go over stuff like this, where they talk about stuff like this. But I feel like that's the kind of thing where you're looking at wins above expectation almost for Coach of the Year.
So I'm gonna say I'm gonna have fun with this. Let's do it with someone taking over with a rookie quarterback. So limit us to the five team starting. No, four, because McCarthy is hurt and Penix is a backup. So
Yeah.
that would leave us with the Patriots,
Washington,
the Commanders,
the Bears.
the Bears, and the Broncos. So I'm gonna go with the Broncos. I'm gonna say Sean Payton.
So that's yeah. So those because I feel like you could with just embracing the variance, like rookies we don't know anything about in terms of their pro level until they actually start playing. So
Broncos are expected to win like 6 wins or so.
So like
if they win 9 or 10,
yeah, so they have a chance. Like
that can be coached.
So you never know. Yeah,
that'll be my dark horse. How about you? Who are you taking?
Out of those,
you don't have to take out.
No, but you do bring up a good angle. Like at least from what I could think of, like for the Bears, for the Eberflus to win it, like they would probably have to win like 12 games. I feel like.
Who won it last year? Who won it?
That's the thing. I don't even remember.
Yeah,
I should have looked this up. But yeah, that's not a yeah. Unless I actually bet it, which I didn't. But yeah, that's like the one that.
My guess is Houston. But let's see.
Yeah, it could be.
It was actually wow.
Cleveland.
You know what? That's a fair. I have no objections to Stefanski winning because that offense was not great and
the defense like was
amazing. Yeah,
12 games.
Yeah, they got
6.
Some of that. Yeah,
I don't know if it says there on there.
I could look. I could find it on one of my spreadsheets.
Either way, but yeah, Cleveland was probably projected around like 8 or so, right? Like last year, maybe 8.5.
That sounds certainly possible. I don't remember what they're projected for.
But I feel like that seems to me like that's the only one that I have an opinion on that I can like say with numbers. Like if you're thinking this team's going to win 3 or 4 more games over expectation.
11-6 last year. Okay, so good for them.
So yeah, if you can win like 3 or 4 games more than expectation, I feel like that's the like and you feel decently on those. Like those are probably the coaches that you're going to bet on because otherwise there's no sense in it. It almost seems to eliminate the top tier coaches in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you have to, and like even in the undefeated year, Belichick didn't win it. So like, if you can't win it and if you can't win it when you're undefeated, like when are you ever going to win it? Like
you're not. That's the neat part.
So yeah. So I think I don't know. That's the only one that I had opinion on. But okay, there was a couple of questions from Amber Gambling about. Her first one was about this is her first time trying football. I was thinking about mostly doing props. Do you have any suggestions for noobs? I honestly don't know what to ask.
I apologize, but I'm just not prop person.
Props, okay. And then all right, her next one was a deep roster linebacker. Would a deep roster linebackers be an indication of mostly being able to shut down the pass in late season because they were in nickel and injury situation or is fourth string coming in late off the bench, easily picked off, or does that matter? Why keep that deep of a roster on the payroll? Context Dallas.
So we've seen teams like the Giants. They for years neglected their linebacker core. And it eventually caught. No, I don't want to say eventually. It caught up to them pretty quick. So like off-ball linebackers are not the highest paid of positions. Like when the Lions took one in the first round, like the draftniks were not impressed, but they'd also taken a running back already in the first round. And then they made the NFC Championship game. So the draft six. Now what do I know? But these are positions that are not considered the most impactful, but they don't matter not at all. Like same with safeties. Like, are they the most impactful? No, but they're not meaningless either. Like good performance there does matter. So let's see what I wrote there. That question. Let's scroll down. So let's see.
About shutting down opponents' passing game. Multiple components.
So, all right. She mentioned shutting down opponents' passing game. The first part is the pass rush, putting on a clock in the quarterback's head. So he doesn't have all day. He has to get rid of the ball. The second thing is you don't want to have any weak links in the defense backfield. If you have a pigeon, as they're known, that opponents can target, even if it's with your third wide receiver. If your guy just can't cover, they're going to torch him. And there's no mercy there. There's no, we're just going to keep running that play if you can't stop it. The next thing is ball hawks. The guys, they can either be safeties or cornerbacks. that can sit back and put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks, take parts of the field away, or just make them dangerous to throw into, which creates opportunities for the other defenders to play tender coverage. That can be very helpful. And that's the thing. Bill Belichick, he wanted to take away your strengths and force you to rely on other things. Good pass defense can take certain things away and force you to try to do other things that you were less familiar with, less good at. Go to your less efficient or effective players, try to take away your stars or main routes, main parts of the field to target. Like with the quarterback who I'm now forgetting for the Carolina Panthers, number 1 overall, Bryce Young. He, defense were able to take away the things he could do because he could only do certain things. That made him play on hard mode. Of course you can.
Yeah, it was careful with those microplastics out there and everything. Legit top sports better.
They're in me now too, apparently. Not much I can do about it. I should have been drinking the beer, the aluminum cans.
Yeah.
That's on me.
Yeah, I'm much safer.
I mean, I don't know if you ever drank liquid metal. It's just liquid death. It's just water. But I would prefer to be drinking it out of a can, but that's not what the hotel gave me. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, my neighbor drinks that. He doesn't drink beer anymore. He's a recovering alcoholic for 2 years now. And that's all I see him drinking is liquid death. So. Side topic, but yeah.
If it scratches the itch,
I think
good for him.
I think when you have an addiction, if you can find something that's not as bad to be addicted to, that's great. So
agree wholeheartedly.
So sorry. Anyways.
So where were again, that's shutting down the opposing passing game. I'm gonna go back to Bill Walsh. As he said, on defense, you can scheme offense, but on defense you need the guys, you need the players. And so you need the talent to be able to cover the offensive players. And again, take away as much of the field, take away certain things. But having a deep linebacker core means you can guard presumably the running backs and certain tight ends, shut down the short passing game perhaps, with the assistance of the cornerbacks and the safeties. But yeah, they could be certainly very helpful for that. It's not having a good linebacker core, the off-ball linebackers. It's useful. It will help you in your defense in a variety of ways. You can also stop certain big plays, like a guy breaks the line. Well, you tackle him at the second level is a good play for the offense, but it wasn't a great one. He gained 7 yards, not 20.
Yeah.
So those things can matter.
Okay. So we have 3 questions. Oh, and there's another one here.
Kitty.
How's your kitty doing? What kind of kitty does Seth Byrne have?
I have 2 semi-ferals that were rescued from the Bronx. They were not socialized to people during that crucial 6-month stage. So I can't pick them up. I can't pick them up and pet them and hold them in my arms or anything. That's just not happening. But they're happy. They love this time of the year. I keep the windows open and they chirp at the birds. And so those are my cats.
And do you foster any cats, or do you ever?
I can't bring
bring any new ones into. Okay.
That's not
okay. Yes. Okay. So because I see you posting every now and then, from your local animal shelter.
Oh yeah, no. So I don't foster the cats that you see on Facebook, but I do support the local shelter. I donate there. I have gotten cats there from there before. They're awesome. They are called Cat Assistants. They're out of Westchester, New York. Highly recommend. Great people, great pets. So yeah, I try to help those kitties find homes.
Okay, and we had I was asking Seth a couple days ago, how old his were. Yeah, because
they're 6 now. Now that I think about it, I think they're 6.
Okay, so ours are. We have one that's 17 and one that's 14. The one that's 17 is on the chunkier side, and she's living a good life, but she gets attacked a lot by Panther, the 14-year-old. And Panther is the one who accidentally ended the life of, at least that contributed to the end of the life of the other one when he kind of had his head hit the ground and then was never the same after that. But she's so playful. The problem is I'm afraid to bring a new cat in to offset that. So it's a delicate balance.
Because Panther's gonna panther.
So I feel like a kitten would help, but then Bella's opened up so much in the past couple of years that I don't want to destroy the bond the new bonds that she's developed late in life with us. So it's kind of
I guess
delicate.
I would stick with what I have right now.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. It's because I do think having another energy source for Panther would get her off of Bella's case a little bit, but it's
perhaps
the thing is you never know until you introduce it, and then I'm not the type that's going to want to give away a pet. I don't believe in that. I try to make it work with what because like Panther was inherited from her dad, my wife's dad passing away, and like once she kind of attached on here, I was like, well, we're not going to get rid of her now, and even with the stuff that happened, it's like, well, we just try to catch it before anything bad happens to like Bella or something like that. But it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to introduce another cat to the situation because I don't know if that's the answer. But yeah, that's the cat stuff. There was there.
So Crib Zombie asked a question. I'm gonna
future parlays.
So I haven't touched anything with college football at all. I haven't done any research or math into the new system or whatever else yet. Obviously, I've talked about football. Yeah. Just in terms of baseball, I will say this: I've gotten my hand burned on the stove that is the Los Angeles Dodgers a few times. Best, but also they did pay off once. Gonna get burned again, my friends. Like when I do the analysis of how they perform in the playoffs and how I expect them to perform, like they are easily, with a full roster, easily the best team in baseball. That team is stacked, but baseball famously has the random champion generator, so I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Especially when you add more playoff teams to the mix. And
they have to win 3 rounds. Assuming they are one of the top 2 seeds. Brian, can you do me a favor and grab that other water from over there?
All right. So we had. Let's see. Was there? I could have guessed Seth would have loved the Dodgers.
You guessed correctly. Which is tough, by the way, because part of my family history is from Brooklyn, and they remain pissed at the Dodgers movement. So where can you go?
All right. So NFL Pinnacle Beater had.
Sure.
Let's see. Was there?
Just talking about the case.
So NFL Pinnacle Beater had 3 questions for you. First one was, if the Jaguars had Tua, would they be an above average offense?
No. Next question.
Next question is Mike Zimmer a sizable upgrade over Quinn?
I don't think so. And part of the issue is Quinn's issues are mostly, in my opinion, as a head coach. I thought he was not necessarily a bad defensive coordinator, and I understand that everyone will remember the last game, and the last game they played was against the Packers, and things did not go well for them. But for the most part, just looking at his body of work, I don't think Quinn was bad.
Yeah.
I assume, unless I'm getting senile middle age, this is a Dallas change, because if it's not, but that's what Zimmer, yes, good. I have not gotten senile yet. But yeah, I think Zimmer's fine, but I also thought Quinn was for the most part fine. Now, bringing in a new coach means the players are gonna anything that has gotten stale is no longer stale. So we might see some increased effort to impress the new guy. I don't know. Perhaps they'll have some success there, but for the most part, I don't think Quinn was the reason that they went home and walked around.
Okay. All right, and then what defense got worse the most?
So before the season, I think it was around Derek Klassen. Maybe it's Klassen, I don't know. He had done a listing of the top defenses in the NFL, and I think he had New England number 3. I know he had them top 5. And this was certainly mocked at the time, but seeing what's happened since. First of all, one of their defensive linemen, Christian Barmore, has blood clot issues. And we don't know when he's going to be back. I'm just glad he's survived them.
Sure.
And then they traded away Matthew Judon to the Falcons. Yeah, I expect that defense to be the one that's gotten to the worst, which is one of the reasons why their win totals are so low. Like last year, they had a better defense than they're expected to have this year. And then we have the Jets, who their defense was good last year, was strong. They used to have a guy named Bryce Huff, who kind of just walked away to Philadelphia. We didn't even offer him a contract, which infuriates me. I just hate my team that much more. And then they traded, no problem. They traded for Hassan Reddick from the Eagles, which is, by the way, where Huff went, and as a pass rusher with 1 year left on his contract to replace him. Problem is, Reddick wants a new deal. He did not report. Jets are claiming that this was not what they had agreed to, but their agreement was with the Philadelphia Eagles. In the NFL, you don't trade players; you trade contracts. You trade contractual rights.
Yeah.
They gave away a draft pick for the contractual rights to Hassan Reddick. Now, whether they sign a new deal with him or not, that's up to them. That's up to both teams. The Hassan Reddick's draft, his team, his agents, whatever else, and New York Jets. But they don't have an agreement with him to report. They just have the contract that they got from the Eagles. And I'm sure the Eagles were expecting the same thing, that this guy wanted a new deal. So the Jets were kind of snookered by the Eagles twice, and it's their own fault both times. So, they might be down a top pass rusher.
Yeah, George Bush fooled me once.
Yeah.
Fooled me twice. Never get fooled again. I don't know whatever he said.
But yeah, I'm a Who fan as well. We won't get fooled again. Or will we?
All right. So, yeah, the listener questions on Twitter, I think I covered. So I will say, anyone who's still listening, if you are, if you could chime in when we discuss a team. It looks like we're going through the NFC first. So if there's anything specific to a team or even just in general, just feel free to shoot them away. But we're going to start.
I may have received some questions on Twitter. Nope, just all right, whatever.
Okay. So we're going to start with the NFC East. As far as team nuggets. You're going over to Dallas, New York, Philly, and Washington.
Just going to go alphabetically by division, and north, east, southwest. The Cowboys, they've got Dak Prescott who's playing in the contract year, which is fascinating to me, by the way. Do the Cowboys, are they planning on looking at the draft next year? Are they?
It's so bizarre. It's
quarterbacks cost. Do you like Dak or you don't?
You're playing. I mean, talk about playing with fire. You're like a masochist. You're like an arsonist or something. I don't know. You're.
I mean, they have him for this year. In theory, honestly, the Cowboys could be saying, "Look, we have tag rights. We're going to tag you next year.
Yeah.
And come back next year if we want you." And say, then 2 years is enough. We'll figure it out after that. But you're too rich for our blood at that point. And maybe that's a good decision. I don't know, but that might be what the Cowboys are doing. But so they have CeeDee Lamb. They signed him.
Yeah.
They have Micah Parsons. They have some key players, and they're going to hope that other players step up. They're a little top heavy. You seem exhausted.
Yeah, it's just the lack of the cat wakes me up so much, and so I don't get as much sleep as I would like. But I woke
up at 4:30 this morning.
So I don't. Yeah, you're doing much better than I am, to be honest. But but I'm not doing any favors to myself right now. So
all right, I'll try to carry.
So no, sorry, I wasn't trying to be. That wasn't an indication of being disinterested. It's
I know that. I know you. That's why I said you're just exhausted.
Yeah.
Two things I want to talk about Dallas. One is they're getting back Diggs, cornerback, and he's important. He matters, but they're also losing one to suspension, Duran Bland, and still be gonna, I want to say, for 6 games. So eventually they're going to have their cornerback pair, and their games against the Eagles earlier in the season. So that's nice for them. But one concern is their new left tackle is Tyler Guyton, first-round draft pick. He wasn't one of my top guys. He wasn't one of the top guys in the draft, and so we're going to see if he's ready to start in the NFL week 1. I don't know if they have better options if he's not. But so that's something I'm going to keep an eye on. For the Giants, as I noted earlier, their season should just all be about tanking for a franchise quarterback. But that's tough when you paid Jones so much money, and the coaches and the front office is on the hot seat. They want to win now.
Yeah.
Which is just screw them going forward.
Yeah, and I know we've discussed this in other podcasts in past years, but it's more so front office is tanking than like coaches and players, because it's really hard. Like when your jobs are on the line, like in terms of this season, coaches and players are always going to give maximum effort.
Tanking is totally a top-down thing.
Yeah.
Players always play. And coaches almost always coach. There was one exception on Sunday Night Football with the Eagles. I want to say they're facing Washington, where they just refused to win that game.
Yeah.
And they got fired, Peterson. So yeah, the Giants just grabbed Neighbors. I think he will, even though he's asking for Daniel Jones, I think he's going to make an impact. So the Eagles, they've rebuilt their secondary. They look good to me. Like, I know last year they collapsed.
Yeah, that was like they went from like 1 seed to losing.
They were 10-1 and they didn't win the division.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they ended up 11-6, I want to say.
And losing to some very mediocre teams in between.
They lost to the Giants.
Yeah.
Not good. Yeah. I think they're going to be back this year. Like, I view them and the 49ers as the clear two top teams in the NFC. I know the Lions and Packers.
Yeah, so because you have Packers, so you're expecting Packers to be in the mix.
So just my tiers would be 49ers if Trent Williams is back. They're tier 1. Eagles are tier 1A, and then the Lions and Packers are tier 2.
Okay.
That's my view of the NFC.
Okay.
And the Cowboys would be just behind, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So let's see. What else? So the one concern about the Eagles is Jalen Hurts, his arm is not as elite as some other quarterbacks. And defenses may have started to adapt to the things they were doing well. And now he and the Eagles are going to have to counterattack, figure out plans to beat the plans that have been more effective against them. But they have a loaded wide receiver corps, so they can put a lot of pressure on opposing defenses. The Commanders, I really wish they were still watching the football team.
It wasn't an immediate embrace, but the more I heard it, there was just something so generic about it that was just
worked.
so charming.
Yeah.
I don't know. That it's a little disappointing that they somehow didn't stick with that, even though it was mocked obviously at first because it was just kind of ridiculous.
It was different.
It was a ridiculous placeholder, but in a way that it ended up being, like I said, charming. In some way.
It worked.
Yeah,
I agree. And so they are starting the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and they are protecting him, his blind side, with a 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
Bold.
That's
called bold.
Yeah, and I know you don't give a shit about fantasy football, but my only chime in is that I traded a lot of picks in my fantasy football league, so I drafted quarterback late, and I have Jaden Daniels as my quarterback with the mindset that in fantasy football, rushing yards get you points quicker than passing yards typically. So my thought process is that Daniels is going to be probably running for his life or just rookie.
He ran for a lot of yards.
And rookies tend to from what I remember, rookie quarterbacks tend to run more. And as they age, they tend to stay in the pocket if they're going to survive.
That may in fact be accurate.
I don't know. I don't have data to support that. That's just Let's see. Do you think? All right, we have a question. Do you think high salaries are inversely correlated to long-term success?
No.
I'm thinking Jalen Hurts' salary makes it tough to build a team, or does it matter?
No. Bad salary is like signing the wrong guys and paying them too much money for too many years is damaging. That's where dead money comes from. But paying a guy who matters, it's worth keeping.
Because the Saints being in salary cap hell.
That's just a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. So, because we had a year or two ago we were discussing, does the salary cap even matter?
It does. It matters. You have to plan ahead for it. Like
But-
the Texans, they traded for Diggs, and they signed him to a new deal. Which, by the way, Diggs, I think his side came up with the idea of, hey, I want to be a free agent after this year. Let's just make the money work, and they did. But they did it with 5 void years, I think.
Okay.
So he cost them very, very little this year.
Yeah. So yeah, and it shouldn't need to be said here, but like, we try to educate here. Like whenever you look at years and money, you have to look at the guaranteed money. And there's a lot of escape clauses in many contracts where you're never going to see the end of the contract in like
Sure.
95% of NFL contracts. Like the guaranteed money's the kind of where you have to look.
Yeah,
right?
that's accurate. But one thing I want to note is void years are guaranteed dead money.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So for next year, like let's say Diggs will cost them $5 million next year. No, I apologize. That might be what we was scheduled to get next year in terms of the prorated signing bonus, but it all comes due in the first dead year, void year.
Okay.
And so he's going to cost a lot more next year than he's costing this year, which is interesting, right? So
Okay.
all right, so that's
let's go to the place that we're at here now.
there's hope.
Yeah,
There's hope in Chicago.
Yeah. It's interesting to see because even with drafting Trubisky the year that they did, like obviously people were happy to get the number 2 pick, and he was the first quarterback that year, I think. Because
didn't they trade up with the 49ers moving one spot?
Myles Garrett was number 1, and then Trubisky was number 2.
Honestly, a lot of the analysis was like, did they really need to do that trade? They probably didn't, but
they were. I guess they're assessing like 2 things. Are the Niners going to draft him, which didn't seem likely, but is anyone else going to trade to the Niners? And I don't know if anyone else was going to trade.
No,
but
it did not work out for them.
But the Niners drafted a defensive tackle. I forgot who it was that didn't really do that well either. But
Solomon? No.
Yeah, I think it was. I think so.
So
I don't. Yeah.
Well, in any event, there's hope here.
But yeah, there's hope. It's you kind of feel it a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I was talking to a few friends. Like, opening week, opening day has a special feel to fans. So you want to embrace the hope, I guess. And I don't know. I guess I'll be curious after you leave here, what your opinion, how many Bears jerseys you're seeing, or how many conversations you hear about the Bears while you're here, just kind of.
I'm sure it'll come up.
Because and by the way, we should address. We were at the hotel bar, and the hotel bar's the guy's name was Sosa.
Yeah, the bartender. How
Chicago is that? That just felt so fitting to the Chicago theme of the podcast. But so Chicago. So let's go to the Bears.
So first of all, they have hope. Second of all, they have a decent roster. They have multiple potential number 1 wide receivers, like Adunzie on the other team might be coming in as the number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And here they've got DJ Moore. So they're and there are other positions as well. Like you can check my NFL preview if you want to go deep. But they have a decent roster. They can make the playoffs this year, which is nice.
And I think I've seen some sites have it around a coin flip.
Might be.
I don't know if that's accurate.
Look, there's wagering on this. I haven't checked that specifically for them, but
do you have a strong feel one way or the other about that? If you're going to say coin flip?
I ended up having them as the 8th overall seed, losing on tiebreakers.
Okay.
But they were tied.
Okay.
So
okay.
And all right, the Detroit Lions. They had the 49ers.
Oh man,
and they let
I
them
was
off
so nervous. So nervous.
You guys were in real trouble.
Yeah.
And then there was the fumble, then the drop, and the other drop.
As nervous as Green Bay, like as nervous as I was during the Green Bay game, I had almost like cashed out on this. I was just
you guys were dead
I was just about to cash out on.
They had you guys dead.
I was like, wow.
And they took a lot. They had multiple things that had to go wrong for them
in the second half of the game.
Yeah, and they did though. They have the Detroit Lions were the Detroit Lions of my youth in that second half.
Yeah,
they stank.
But learning experience, hopefully for them. I mean, not for me, but hopefully for them. But,
my one real question for the Lions is obviously I believe Goff. I think he's now developed to a quality quarterback, and I love their head coach Dan Campbell. They drafted a wide receiver, Jameson Williams, in the first round a couple years ago, and we knew he was coming in injured. And the question was, would he be able to capture his form? Because if he were healthy, he'd be a potential monster. And now that's this. He's had a few years to recover. This will be his year to show out, or not.
Yeah.
See what he has. The Green Bay Packers, as I mentioned, the secondary should be much improved, and the offense looks legit. They're my NFC dark horse. All right, the Vikings. In the NFC North, we were supposed to have the number 1 overall pick. Caleb Williams. We were supposed to have Goff, a guy who won the NFC a few years back with the Rams and going to the NFC Championship game last year. We were also a former number 1 overall pick. We were supposed to have Love, who had a breakout season last year. And we were supposed to have the reigning college football champion, McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy. And that would have been awesome. And then he hurts his knee. And I feel really bad for him, but like it means they get the Sam Darnold experience, and I've been on that ride. It's not fun.
Yeah,
makes you want to hurl.
Yeah, we had that for parts of games last year, but that was only to kind of fill in towards the end. Like it wasn't. Thankfully Purdy stayed healthy and did his thing.
McCarthy with Jefferson and Addison would have been kind of exciting, but we're going to just have to wait. No, we're going to have to wait.
Yeah.
Show some patience.
Sure.
All right, so the Falcons, they just draft differently. They draft running backs number 8 overall. They draft quarterbacks number 8 overall.
They draft tight end number 4 or 3 or 4, whatever that was.
Those 4. Yeah. So they just have a different philosophy than the rest of the NFL. On the plus side, they picked up a top edge rusher, defensive player via trade, so that'll help via the Patriots. All right. So for the Carolina Panthers, LOL, David Tepper. I do not believe in Bryce Young, and so I think they're in for a bad time for the foreseeable future. And now that's where my note stops because I don't want so much time to prep them. It's life. So the Saints, as we mentioned, the salary cap, Hal, they're just stuck. In my NFL preview, I wrote it as they put it spare because every year you just suck 1 year of their life in hell.
Yeah.
Cap hell. But it's almost like the pit of mediocrity, the pit of limbo.
Yeah.
We're not going to suck. We have a decent roster. We have a credible quarterback. We're not going to be contenders either.
Yeah.
So that's
do you see a situation where Radler starts in the middle of the year because Carr does so bad? Do you envision something like that?
I mean, apparently they liked what they saw from Rattler in the preseason, but again, that's not.
Really he was a 4th or 5th round pick. So I guess Carr would probably have to do quite a bit to. I don't know.
Rattler could play, but I feel like with the Saints, what I would recommend for them is to just suck for a year or 2, clear out your cap, clear out your roster, and just rebuild.
Yeah.
But that's not what they want. It's their team.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay. So Baker Mayfield led them to the division championship last year. He had a couple rough years. He also been playing through a significant amount of pain. And last year he was healthier, and they won the division, and he got paid. Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, deserved.
I'm a little concerned that last year we kind of saw some of the best he'll be able to produce going forward, and I don't know if he'll be able to keep that up and keep up that level. We'll see. That would be my concern there.
Yeah, I got to pause there, but with Mayfield, like he's had like one of the most like fascinating careers to me.
I mean, he had a lot of commercials.
Like, and I don't know if that's like, I don't know if it's just because he's been in the public eye and like just gone through so many ups and downs, but there's just something so fascinating about Mayfield to me that like he's already on his like 4th or 5th team.
So yeah, he was with the Browns obviously for a while. Then he went to the Rams. I feel like he went somewhere else, and now Tampa Bay.
Yeah. It's just he was on the Panthers for a minute, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Just he like, but like he's got the benefit of being a former number 1 pick because there's that bias built in of if he was drafted in any other round, he probably wouldn't have gotten as many chances. I don't know. I could be wrong.
It's hard for me to say one or the other.
I feel like there could be some bias built in about like if a guy's drafted in a certain round, like but maybe that's not true because Lance is a 3rd. Well, I guess he's a 2nd stringer now, but
Lance was 3rd overall, and apparently he just can't play professional football.
Yeah. So we missed on that one, but yeah, I guess
pretty made up for it.
I guess you got to look at it situationally, but I don't know. But Mayfield, he just had a very fascinating career, so that's all I wanted to get at.
That's fair. I don't know if he would have been the same type of journeyman if he wasn't taken in the 1st round or 1st overall. I will say I feel like he's earned his opportunities.
I feel like being drafted in the 1st round lends you like at least 1 or 2 more opportunities than other guys would get.
It certainly does on your initial team. I just don't know that it carries over to free agency.
Sure.
All right. So now we have the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
I am skeptical that their plans are going to work. I don't necessarily know whether or not. So this is actually a situation where I want to look at the roster.
Sure.
But so yes, they got Marvin Harrison Jr. That should help. But is Kyler Murray the guy? He has not been lately, and I don't know if he will be for them. So concerns.
Sure.
Then we have the Rams. I hope his hamstring's healthy. Like they were the playoff team last year. They were frisky. They could have gotten further. That they lost to the Lions, I believe, in a game that could have gone either way.
Yeah. That's a close one.
You have the 49ers, who are the favorites, but Trent Williams, I think they're a better team with them.
Well, and that makes me like the Niners themselves make me think of that Diggs shirt where it's like different players at different positions on different teams. It's complicated. I don't remember the exact quote, but
that's the essence of it.
But it's like, he's more valuable to the Niners than most left tackles are to their teams. Like, and left tackles are important, but in general, but
yes,
but
he's also really, really good.
Yeah.
Now he's not young, which could be the other issue the 49ers are paying attention to. Like they don't know when he might start dropping off. But yeah, I again take week 1 off, and then reach a peaceable.
Yeah, so we might not be able to do this online here, but we have to think of something for the Monday game next week.
Yeah, we'll think of something at dinner. All right.
Yeah.
So Seattle, again, they're in the Geno Smith zone, which is not bad. Not necessarily good either.
Yeah.
They're fine-ish. Again, not where I want to be. And again, with the coaching staff.
They're just in the middle. Like a lot like
how many quarterbacks have mid-range salaries?
Yes. Yeah.
So they're mid.
Yeah.
All right. So the AFC, Buffalo. I wonder if I'm too high on Buffalo simply because I have so much respect for Allen, and I think they could survive the loss of Diggs. I'm a little worried about losing Milano.
That seems, that's almost seems like they're trying to do almost what the Chiefs did.
As good as Allen is, he's not
Yeah.
on the Mahomes team.
Yeah,
Like when he had an elite wide receiver, like yes, they were getting into gunfights. Those were great games in the playoffs, but you're never taking Allen over Mahomes. You're just not.
yeah.
And they're going to have to make their offense work different. Now, I do like their tight end, whose name is escaping me. Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
He's good. I don't know if he's number one wide receiver good, but I also I respect Buffalo, so we'll see. Miami has the offensive firepower. They have so much team speed there. It could be their year. I mean, obviously last year wasn't, and they ended up freezing to death in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But I respect them. Obviously, I expect the Jets to fall flat on their faces. How? Probably to a quarterback who isn't what he once was, and they're building their team around him and also hiring him as their GM. That's not great. Like, I was mentioning this earlier. The Jets have been acting like a team that was poor. They didn't pay Huff, and they're not paying Reddick. So if you're trying to win now, and they're clearly trying to win now, that does not jive with playing poor.
Sure.
All right, next up, the Patriots probably should have been ahead of the Jets alphabetically. New England out of New York, but I believe in Drake May. He's looked like the guy to me in this preseason. I think he's going to be a real NFL quarterback. And I will note, I had him ahead of Jaden Daniels in my draft preview. I think he has a higher upside, more potential to be a franchise quarterback. And so I think they found their guy. But preseason football doesn't tell you that much.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be starting to start the season because the offensive line looks like trash. They don't want to kill him.
Yeah. So I guess that's the benefit of not being named the starter.
Yeah.
In that situation, because that could be why they named.
I mean, we've seen plenty of quarterbacks succeed after not starting their rookie season.
Yeah.
Mahomes, Rodgers. There've been others. You don't have to.
Because even they're weighing the possibilities of all right, if let's say if they thought he was so good that they could make the playoffs, they would start him right away. But he's not.
Yeah, that would be a tough ask.
But that's a big jump from the projected 5 wins or whatever that they're supposed to get to be a playoff team.
Yeah. But if they do make the playoffs, that's coach of the year.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. But that's a hard sell. It's a harder sell for me to say the 5 win team's going to win 9 versus a 9 win team's going to win 12 or 13. I don't know, but just because that's just to me anyway.
Yeah, it's the difference between sucking and not sucking.
Yeah,
they might not suck, but I expect them to suck. So the Ravens. They were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. They hosted the AFC Championship game, and it was all for naught.
Yeah.
And they were a good team. I expect them to be a good team again this year. So
and your numbers last year, I think you in the playoff preview said that Baltimore and San Fran were
they were monsters.
A tier above most teams that you.
They were on the elites tier, and neither of them won. So what do I know?
But shit happens.
Shit happened. Mahomes happened, really.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The Cincinnati Bengals, Burrow, Higgins, Chase. They won the AFC before based on that. They're going to try to do it again. Their division is obviously very, very tough, but we'll see. The Browns, coach of the year, Stefanski, just tried to defend his ground.
There you
go. The thing is, defense, it's hard to be dominant year after year. Offense, it's easier to do that. And mostly, they just want their offense not to suck.
Yeah.
And that's on Deshaun Watson because they gave him a contract. It'll be a long time before we see a contract like that ever again. The Steelers, they have 2 high-profile quarterbacks. Do they have one that should be still starting in the NFL? That's the question. What? I don't either. But again, he's not one for losing season.
And I think, I don't know, most of the market already said that about the Fields part because I know that there were we're in Chicago. A lot of people thought Chicago should have gotten more for that, but that was what the market.
The market offers what the market offers.
Yeah,
like they wanted a second round pick, then they wanted a fourth round pick.
It was probably a combination of the fact that they knew that the Bears were looking to get rid of him.
Sure.
And the fact that he didn't have if he had higher quality, they wouldn't have been in that position to begin with. Well, I guess this was the Panthers pick, but either way, like he didn't put them in a position where they were like completely sold on him.
He put them in a position to get the wide receiver that'll play with his replacement.
So
I will say that he fell in the draft too. Like he was considered to be a possible top 4, top 5 guy, and I think they got him like 12.
Yeah.
So it's not like the NFL has shown how much they've loved him previously.
Sure.
So the Texans, they were unexpectedly great last year. It's not easy to repeat that.
Yeah.
I think they should. Like, I love their talent. I love their quarterback. Their roster is kind of built to win now. They got Diggs. If Diggs still has it.
They got a decent wide receiver core. They got Collins and Dell, too.
Like Dell, they're getting Dell back. Solid. And they got Diggs.
That's one of the best trios.
They could be terrifying if Diggs still has it. So
but Diggs kind of tailed off towards him last year, and I think he's done that the last couple.
Very much so.
And he's on the wrong side of 30 too. So
we're gonna see what he has left. He's seeing what he has left in because again, he'll be a free agent after this year.
Yeah.
We have the Colts, who Richardson hopefully stays healthy this year. We'll see what we have in him.
Yeah.
So the Jaguars are looking to get back to the top of the division. What was the interesting thing that I wanted to note about them? So they signed Gabe Davis, who I don't think was the guy who was driving the bus in Buffalo. I think he was a passenger.
No, he had a lot of hit or miss games. Like there'd be weeks where he had 0, 0, 0, and then there'd be games where he'd have like 422, like, you know.
Or whatever. All right, they left him open this
whatever,
week.
like, you know, it'd be the. But was that Allen or was that?
I think it was Allen, and I think it was partly Diggs tracking attention.
Well, yeah, it's like football, so like it's very dependent, like on who you have around you too. I think.
I will note, I'm curious to see how rookie first round pick Brian Thomas does there. He was my number 4 wide receiver in the draft, and so he gets a chance to work with Trevor Lawrence. Hopefully, they work very well together.
Yeah,
we'll find out. All right, next up. The Titans. So they like both the Chargers and the Titans went offensive line, left tackle. So they took J.C. Latham out of Alabama. I think Latham will be good. I honestly think the team will be good. They've been mediocre for a while now. And Will Levis. So Will Levis did not end up having a good season last year. He started off well, initially, but then the true Will Levis may have shown up.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is they have Mason Rudolph, and he was a decent backup for Pittsburgh. And like Pittsburgh could have kept him. That's not like Pittsburgh spent a ton. They spent a 6th round draft pick and a reasonable sum to get the 2 guys, Fields and Wilson. But they could have kept Mason Rudolph. I don't know. I am skeptical in the Titans. I think it'll be a long year for them. But that just means they can have perhaps a chance to draft a franchise quarterback next year. Denver Broncos, they got their man Bo Nix. Check down. See if they can check down to death. We have the champs. The thing I want to note about the champs is they lost Snead. They lost the quarterback to Snead. He was really good. I feel like they will miss his presence. They'll feel his absence. The Raiders, what was the interesting thing they did? Right. They grabbed Brock Bowers. They grabbed the top tight end, not at number 4, at number 13. And different.
And they had drafted a tight end early last year too, Michael Mayer, however you pronounce it. So like they obviously.
So now they're going to run the 2 tight end sets, perhaps. They have Devontae Adams. But they also have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So good luck with that.
Yeah.
And then finally we have the Chargers, who like they have a franchise quarterback and haven't really done much with them. Like, they drafted Ladd McConkey, Joe Alt. Like they have tried to punch up their offense, but they did it in the order that I would have not done it. I would have done it with like Malik Neighbors and then drafted an offensive lineman. We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I do expect Alt to be very good, and Harbaugh. Maybe you know more football than I do. Maybe this will work out.
Yeah. I mean,
welcome back to the NFL, my man.
yes. All right. Does that wrap up the team?
I think it does.
Let's see. Do we have
Nothing really we need to immediately answer. So, is there anything else you want to add, or is it drink o'clock?
Well,
I know you've already had 4 beers deep.
Yeah, drink o'clock and just a little bit more self-promotion, but I'm 5 days away from my first half marathon.
Good luck, my man.
And so yeah, I'm looking at, right now. I'm in the phase of looking at my playlist. So I got some suggestions from you.
That, yeah.
So if there's any suggestions from anybody about
if any of you guys have a song,
good like pump up
that
songs
on the 11th or 12th miles,
yeah.
when you're just hating life,
Yeah.
when you feel like, why am I doing this?
And I'm hoping 11th or 12th miles is around an hour 35 because I'm aiming for under 2 hours. So that's the goal. It's like 9 minutes, 8 seconds, 7 seconds. I don't know. I forget the exact math, but that's the goal. A couple days ago, I just had a memory come up on Facebook about it was my first time in my new journey of running nonstop for 3 miles, and it was like 11-minute miles. So the fact that I'm even in this position kind of blows my mind.
You've done work.
So yeah. So you have to. I'm putting in the work. I plan on sticking with it because it feels a lot better to feel good than it does to feel bad. I know that sounds very simplistic, but like you try to. Now that I know how both sides feel as an adult, I want to keep at this. Even though I'm drinking beer, I know I can offset.
I noticed that, but like you're also exercising.
But I ran 2 miles earlier today and. I walked to the train, and I'm doing things that are trying to offset those things. So,
one quick other baseball question.
Yeah, baseball.
I'll tell you this: when the Yankees have had their entire lineup together, they've been good. And I don't necessarily know; I can't predict playoff health, but if they're healthy, I think they're the best team in the American League. But I still say the Dodgers are just better than anyone else. Again, if they are. As well. One final note I want to bring up. This shirt, I don't know how well you guys can see it, but those are little gnomes that have been mining. Hagrid, I wore this shirt for you. So
hopefully you watch this out. I'll make sure to repost this because I know that not everyone can watch this live, being it's Labor Day and all that. But I do appreciate those of you that have contributed questions and spent your Labor Day with us. It's appreciated. And
one thing I should mention my Super Bowl. I have the Super Bowl we did not get last year. I have 49ers Ravens, and I have the 49ers coming out on top.
I would
good luck, my man.
I would love that. So week 1. Do you have any Jets bets yet? I know you're fading the Jets overall, but like I guess you.
I'm gonna have one against you just because I'm gonna have one against you.
Yeah. So, but no, you can't.
No.
But you're fading them in general. So, all right. Well, I think that wraps it up, everyone. I appreciate you joining, and I'll post this once again for those who couldn't make it. And if you do have any leftover questions after this, you can always hit up Seth on the twits at Seth Bird. So,
yep,
Seth. Thanks for joining. It's a pleasure. I'm always happy to meet a new person. And this is like 8 or 9 years in the making. So, thanks, and have a good day, guys.
Good day, guys.
Bye.
One stream.